Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. All right. Um, this final section here of the real aspect or the true aspect of Gohonzon. Something is said here that I think has been misinterpreted by several schools or sects or groups, whatever. And so I want to spend a little bit of time on it. In this next paragraph, Nichiren opens and makes a statement that is not the only time he makes it, but there's special focus on it here. He begins, since Nichiren's disciples and lay supporters believe solely in the Lotus Sutra, honestly discarding expedient means and not accepting even a single verse of the other sutras, exactly as the Lotus teaches, they can enter the treasure tower of the Gohonzon. So, several things to unpack there. First of all, I don't think believe is the right word to use in this case. I don't think we have a good word in English to encapsulate the idea here. When we say solely in the Lotus Sutra, we don't believe solely in the Lotus Sutra. Scholarship leads us to the like a completed hypothesis, like an ultimate discovery in any kind of an investigation, scientific or otherwise. We accumulate lots of information, and that information either builds on itself to further deepen understanding, or it creates anomalies that we have to eschew and get rid of as we hone our understanding of whatever it is we're studying. And then at some point, we get to an ultimate realization where everything resolves correctly, everything makes sense, and then we can look back upon our path and see how we got there. So if you think of what is attempted to say here, is that when we believe solely in the Lotus Sutra, what we're actually doing is resolving our understanding and our practice to an ultimate realization, which is the Lotus Sutra. And it says, honestly discarding expedient mean. Why honestly? We don't just throw away the previous sutras. We don't throw away the stories that led to our understanding. Just like in science, we don't throw away all the experimentation that we did in order to arrive at this ultimate conclusion. Rather, we teach those experiments that brought us to this realization so that others might also attain this realization for themselves, even though we know, having gotten there, that this realization is ultimate. Follow? But what we don't do, and I'll use the science analogy, what we don't do is go back to previous experiments and say, that's what we do. Now, we'll just call that intermediary experiment the ultimate in our resolution. Well, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? That would be denying that the very things that led us to investigate further so that we get to the ultimate understanding somehow have more value than the ultimate understanding. It's just, it makes no sense at all. So this is the context that this is being said, and always the context that's being said, because Buddhism is about a scholarship. It's not about some blind ideas and theories about, well, we'll follow this God or we'll follow that, whatever. All of Buddhism, just as Shakyamuni taught, was taught in stages to bring us along to the ultimate conclusion in the Lotus Sutra, Myoho Renge Kyo. So chanting Amida Buddha from some earlier tangential teaching or intermediary teaching is ridiculous, because it's already been proven to not be ultimate by the virtue that there is an ultimate teaching, right? And it's just logic, right? And reason. Hello. So when he says, and not accepting even a single verse of other sutras, he's not saying, see, again, this is a translation problem. It's not about denying those earlier sutras. It's about not taking them as ultimate, not taking them as the final word. The final word in Buddhist teaching is Myoho Renge Kyo. It's Lotus Sutra. So you don't go back to the Vimalakirti, an earlier Mahayana teaching, or to a very early Suddhadharma, excuse me, early Hinayana teachings on, sorry, postures and mudras and all of that, and make them your ultimate. I'll stop here. This is all I need. No, it's only an intermediary teaching, or as it's said over and over again, expedient means to get you to the Lotus Sutra. Follow? And of course, all of this is about what the Lotus Sutra says can enter the treasure tower of the Gohonzon. Now, there's an important statement right there. The Lotus Sutra, as you read it, will have chapters. Actually, there's an actual chapter on the treasure tower itself, with Shakyamuni and many treasurers, Buddha, sitting at the helm of this tower, this treasure tower in the sky. This is all visualizations of our enlightenment in samsara. That's why the imagery of a tower and the treasure is our enlightenment. So guess what Nichiren did? He takes that concept right out of the Lotus Sutra, and he creates for us in the mandala, right in the middle, very large characters, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, with the Buddhas on either side of it, because that is a visualization of that treasure tower. And it only appears described in the Lotus Sutra. So if you read the Lankavatara, you're not going to encounter in that teaching the treasure tower. So of course it is only by studying the Lotus Sutra that they can enter the treasure tower of the Gohonzon, that realization, that mechanism in the Lotus Sutra of the treasure tower, of this mandala, is a symbolic element of our enlightenment in our current human form. That is Gohonzon. Gohonzon is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Myoho Renge Kyo is our enlightenment. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, our determined resolve to invoke that Buddha nature, that is our Gohonzon. Not the mandala. The mandala is a representation, a reminder, a focal point to enliven your realization of Gohonzon in your life as you explore, express, experience your Buddha nature in this samsaric human form. Is this starting to gel? So this is what he's saying. How reassuring. In other words, as you practice the teachings of the Lotus Sutra, discarding the teachings prior to it as an end in itself, not as teachings that are invalid. They're invalid as an ultimate teaching, but they are stepping stones to get to this realization of Myoho Renge-kyo, Lotus Sutra. That's what this is saying. So again, I keep talking about studies, scholarship. This is what I'm talking about. Understand that, yes, we all practice Myoho Renge-kyo. The Lotus Sutra is the ultimate of the teachings. Nichiren makes his whole life dedicated to this point. But he's doing so in the midst of other erroneous schools that have all opted to regress to earlier teachings, which are no longer the ultimate. They no longer present the treasure tower of Gohonzon, your enlightenment in this life. So why would you do that? So this is why the rhetoric is like this over and over and over again. It's not because well, to this day we have other sects and other earlier schools of Buddhism who maintain that that is the Buddhist practice. But it isn't, because we don't live in 5th century China anymore. We're not those people. We're completely different. We are the bodhisattvas of the earth, just as you might argue they were too, but they weren't the bodhisattvas of the earth because nowhere in those earlier teachings was any mention of bodhisattvas of the earth. Those appear in and only in the Lotus Sutra. Again, the ultimate hypothesis, the ultimate theory, the ultimate teaching. I can try to get endlessly clever with words here, but I'm only trying to describe as accurately as I can the fact of the matter. He goes on, make every possible effort for the sake of your next life, for your future, right? What is most important is that by chanting Namo Myoho Renge-kyo alone, you can attain Buddhahood. Period. That's the ultimate practice. It will no doubt depend on the strength of your resolute mind, because if you don't take yourself seriously, then what are you doing? Entertaining yourself? If you, as you've heard me quote and Nichiren quote himself several times, single-mindedly inculcating and expressing, invoking your Buddha, your relationship with this body and your Buddha body, make some kind of a statement for yourself so that you understand that when you're in front of this mandala, focused on achieving your Gohonzon, you are amalgamating your energies with your Buddha realization, your Buddha clarity. It's not Buddha realization, it's your realization of Buddha, your innate Buddhahood, your clarity of understanding, your expression and experience of the entire process of life through your human lens that pushes out the monkeys, pushes out all the erroneous distractions so that you can see clearly your life and life in general. That needs to be like visually in your mind, some kind of a unification, right? With that kind of mind, that kind of resolve, right? You don't go to your mandala, chant to your Gohonzon so that you can have a good bowl of Captain Crunch. It's just not gonna, what are you doing? So you have to have a strong mind. And along with your mind goes your heart. Heart, mind, right? Body, mind, energy. To have a resolute mind is the basis of Buddhism. Thus, the fourth volume of the Great Concentration and Insight states, quote, Buddhism is like an ocean that one can only enter with a resolute mind. The fourth volume of the Annotations on Great Concentration and Insight explains this, quote, with regard to the phrase, Buddhism is like an ocean that one can only enter with a resolute mind, even Confucius taught that a resolute mind is first and foremost. See, unlike other living beings, like creatures, insects, and so forth, they don't have that power of ichinen, of will, of determination. It may look like determination to us when we see a lion flying across the ground to capture an antelope so that it can feed itself, but that's instinctual behavior. The lion doesn't have dreams about one day catching an antelope. It's just something it does. See, we humans have the mind of volition. We put energy into thought in order to manifest physically that thought. This is incredibly important. This is the mechanism by which we can awaken our Buddha nature. That's what all of Buddhism is about teaching. This is why the first teachings are about mind-body attachment, how those two work together. See, that's a fundamental step in understanding, ultimately, how we control our minds to perceive with our will, our volition, our intent to ameliorate ourselves, to go beyond what we think we know, to go beyond the limitations of our instinctual humanity. Because we do that. We can do that. This is how we learn and teach ourselves beyond rudimentary things, beyond just feeding ourselves and having sex. Those are things that just are built in to our human samsaric existence. But taking our mind to a far more realized experience of life, that's pretty unique. That's something that you have to be determined to do, because it's really easy to just lay back and accept life as it comes. But you're not driving that. The monkeys are driving that. You're reducing your life to animal. As humans, we can do so much more. And so Myoho Renge-kyo represents the pinnacle of what we can do, reaching for a potential mind that resolves all of experience. That's really something. But it takes effort, and that effort is in the form of a resolve, of determined will. How much more is this true of the profounder doctrines of Buddhism? Without a resolute mind, how could one possibly enter? That is why the Flower Garland Sutra defines a resolute mind as the basis of the way and the mother of great rewards. The first volume of Great Concentration and Insight, and I keep referring to that, and you know that's a Tendai teaching, right? Chiche. How does one here believe in and practice the perfect teaching to attain perfect enlightenment? The first volume on Great Concentration and Insight says, to believe in the perfect teaching means to awaken a resolute mind through doctrine and to make a resolute mind the basis of practice. So again, the word believe, the definition kind of deconstructs what they mean by believe. Because in the West, believe is kind of a magical, I'll just take it. But that's not what, we need a different word here in Buddhism. Because by definition, to believe in the perfect teaching means to awaken a resolute mind through doctrine, study, and to make a resolute mind the basis of practice. So through study, we gain confidence, understanding, insight. And those insights and that understanding bolsters our sense of determination. Because with every insight, we know, at a cellular level, we know that this is the way forward, that this is the way to our Buddha-ness. Confidence is more close to the word than believe is. There's a commitment that doesn't come from magic. It comes from study and hypothesis and scientific and will and volition, which comes from confidence in what you're seeking and knowing that it is there. Right? If you're walking through a desert and you desperately need water, you can see mirages all over the place. But at some point, you're going to smell, and more than just sense water, you're going to feel it. And when you see you hear the river rushing, and you can actually see it rather than a mirage, trees growing around it and every evidence that it's there, your confidence builds that you're going to get to water. This might be a poor analogy, but it's just a visual, trying to understand that the mirage is more like a belief, isn't it? But to trip over some vines, some vegetation, and touch it, feel it, know it, is a much stronger sense of confidence that water is available, isn't it? He goes on, a non-Buddhist document relates that because the Emperor of Han believed his aide's report, the waters of a river froze on the spot. Another tells how Li Quan, because he was eager to revenge his father, shot an arrow all the way up to its feathers into a boulder hidden in the grass. The commentaries of Tendai and Miao Lo make it perfectly clear that a resolute mind is the cornerstone. It's amazing what you can accomplish when your your dedication to something being real can manifest itself. There's all kinds of Western example for this kind of thing too. You know, a mother's strength when her child is about to be run over by a car or has a car impendingly running over it, she can actually pick the car up to move the child out of danger. These kinds of stories, whether they're folklore or not, indicate the tremendous power of will. That kind of determination. You will, with your will, achieve your enlightenment. In other words, don't just practice as a lackadaisical kind of habit. Put your volition to work. With that kind of ichinen, you fuse with this mandala very quickly. Because the Han Emperor believed, and you can look up these stories, by the way, they're just touched on, and there's some references in the notes too. Because the Han Emperor believed completely in his retainer's words, the river froze over, and Li Quan was able to pierce a rock with an arrow because he fully believed it to be the tiger that had killed his father. How much more so is this true in Buddhism? So again, believe doesn't really think about that use of that word. Li Quan was able to pierce a rock with his arrow because he fully believed it to be the tiger that killed his father. Believed it. He made a picture in his mind of his conviction, determined to kill that tiger. He made it so, a realization in his mind that that is the tiger, and the arrow penetrated the rock. Not because he believed the rock was a tiger. Do you see the problem in the language there? He didn't believe. He didn't look at the rock and go, I believe you're a tiger. No, he was looking through the grasses and he saw a shadow, a darkness, and his will to kill that tiger that had killed his father was so strong he had to express it. And he expressed it with such volition that his arrow pierced the rock. But he wasn't trying to kill a rock. He was trying to expiate his sense of right, of his determination to accomplish a feat. That's confidence. That's will. It has little to do with, in the West, what we call belief. Is just a blind acceptance of things, of belonging to a club. We use belief in very weird ways in the West. That's why I don't think that this is a good translation of what the words of Nichiren actually were. But even if he used something to that effect, we understand what was meant, right? Embracing the Lotus Sutra and chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo in itself encompasses the 5 practices. It was this matter, the wonderful practice that includes the immediate completion of the 5 practices, that was transmitted to the great teacher Dengyo when he journeyed to Tang, China, and met the Reverend Tao Tsui. No other teaching is more important for Nichiren's disciples and lay supporters. It is referred to in the Supernatural Powers chapter. I will write again in detail. Respectfully, Nichiren. So, this very core understanding, core doctrine of Nichiren there is where the Lotus Sutra's place is in the teachings, how we practice, what our proper attitude should be, so that we can actually accomplish. We're not just endlessly practicing this so that someday far away we'll get there. We get there every time we do it, but we have to do it with that conviction, that confidence, that determination. Then we experience it. And once you experience it, you can't deny it. It's a matter of constant reference, constant refreshment, because moment to moment, birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. If we don't stay in birth of our Buddhahood, and we walk away from it and let it die off without resurgence, constantly training our mind, training our body, be in Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, be in Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, every moment, then each cell, as we've talked about before, we're constantly creating new cells to replenish our bodies and eschewing old ones, getting rid of them, in this cycle of birth and death. If we can, with every cell in our body, birth those cells, when that stem cell comes out, before it even knows that it's a heart cell or pancreas cell or skin cell or whatever it's about to be, if we birth that process into Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, then after a while, each cell in our body starts to be made of our enlightened self. This is this is very interesting visualization. To see each cell, each atom in your body, each molecule in your body being instantiated from your Buddha-ness. What kind of healing properties might that have? What kind of rejuvenating spirit, not only physical but mentally? What kind of life condition would you manifest in this samsaric reality if each, at a cellular level, part of you was instantiated through your enlightenment, your maximum potential? What kind of life could that be? That's what would be a seeking spirit, seeking to discover that. Yes, that obviously takes human time. But the enlightenment, the Buddhahood, the Buddha-ness, with the treasure tower, we can experience right now, immediately. Because it's here, it's available, it's always here. What we need to do is invoke it, instantiate it into our life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That kind of will, that kind of momentum. And you will experience it, I guarantee you. All right, so that completes the real aspect or the true aspect of Gohonzon. We're almost done with book 4. It just seems like not long ago I started on this collection of books. I have a book 5 and a book 6, and I think they're smaller. So, wow, we're going to achieve my goal in my lifetime of reading all the extant Gosho. The next one is The Hero of the World. Another, of course, they're all interesting for different reasons. Study, do your own research, download the podcast, the Buddhahood podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you again for all of those who are generous enough, not only with your time to watch these videos, which thank you, but also who offer gifts or support, financial support, to keep these podcasts and these videos going. Great appreciation from all of us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next one. See you then. Take care of your health. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Bye-bye now.